Hey everybody, Corn-Fed Lady here, and today I'm going to give you guys a different kind of video. I was actually planning on showing you the no-dig potato harvest, but it seems pretty simple, and I've got a lot more things that I feel like I should be sharing with y'all. So let's take a walk around the homestead and have a chat. Now I will take you guys on back and show you a little bit of that potato harvest, since I gave you a teaser about it already. But I have had it come to my attention that we're not really sharing much about our involvement in the community here and how we procure all of our different materials such as hay and straw and feed and food for us. So I thought maybe I'd take you guys around and talk to you today and share a little bit about how we manage to live out here kind of off of the grid out in the countryside. Okay, so here's our potato bed. Now it's kind of a mess because it's late in the season and everything this time of year around here is kind of a mess. There's some tall grass in the background there, but the potato bed itself is pretty weed free. Now all we did to plant this was dump some potatoes onto the raw ground just right into the grass. And we put some bricks and beams, wood beams and bricks. They're kind of hard to see now. But we've got wood beams and bricks kind of bordering it just loosely so that we know where the bed is when we're harvesting. And then we covered them up with some straw or some old hay, whatever kind of material that you have like that laying around will be just fine. Now you do want to make sure to get this layer on nice and thick so that it protects your potatoes from the sun. And the harvest couldn't really be easier. All you have to do, and I've just got my bare hands here, is tug on a couple of these plants that look dead, and that will tell you where the potatoes are going to be. And then you just kind of brush the straw and hay aside, and there's your potatoes. So I mean, this isn't really something that I felt like I should be making like a 10-20 minute video out of, because it's just so simple and easy. I mean, the potatoes literally just appear out of the ground, you know, and this is just loose material. You can just run through here with your bare hands and just find potatoes just that easily. So again, I didn't feel like this was something that I needed to make a video about necessarily, because it's just so simple and easy and basic. I mean, you can see just since I've been standing here talking to you guys, I've found, well, let's see, here's some more. You know, I found over a dozen potatoes just standing here talking to you guys for a second about how simple and easy this method is. And you can see none of these are green. They've all been covered up with this old straw, hay, whatever. And this is just a small little area of this entire potato bed. So I have been picking about this much every couple days just for us to eat. And then the rest is still in there to pick out. So although this is a task that needs to be done and that is often made into a video, and I myself have made many potato harvest videos, if you want to go back and watch them, please feel free. You can also go back and see just how we planted this potato bed. All right, I'm going to cover these back up with this straw and hay just for a minute while I finish this video with you guys, and then I'll come back and get them before something else does. But that'll protect them from the sun for now. And so I guess that brings us to our first material or first connection with the farm community here. And that would be this straw and hay. So let me take you back to the barn and I'll show you some of the straw and hay that we have stacked up in there now and talk to you a little bit more about where it came from. All right, you'll have to excuse the chickens. They're having a little egg laying drama and sometimes they get a little noisy about that. And this barn is shared with the chickens and the feed stall, which is where we keep all of our hay. This is just basic grass hay here, so it's very just kind of simple. We feed this to our rabbits so that they have something to nibble on other than the store-bought pellets. And this hay, sorry about the chickens, this hay comes from a deal with our neighbors, which I'll talk a little bit more about here in a second. Right behind that we have some fancy hay. This was, I believe, first cutting hay from earlier this year. and it has all kinds of different little plant materials and treats in it. So it's not just the basic grass hay like this one. It's kind of a fancier hay. This is a field hay. So it has more variety of plant material in it. And this is what we're feeding our rabbits right now while they're pregnant, so that they can get the most nutritional value out of the hay. And then once we run out of that and the girls are no longer pregnant, then we'll start them back on the regular basic grass hay. Again, all of these materials in here come from the same place. So we've got our regular grass hay, we've got our fancy field hay, and then on the end here is straw. And the straw material is not for eating. This is for the bedding for our chickens who are hollering back here behind me, and also for our rabbits and turkeys, and basically we use the straw as bedding in every coop setting for every type of animal here. Now we do also have some alfalfa. Might be that one on bottom, I'm not sure. And that's also for snacking on. Now all of this hay and straw has come from our neighbor. Get you out of that crazy barn with all the chickens screaming. Now our neighbor that I'm talking about is the one who lives all the way back there behind the turkey run. Now if you've been following us long enough, you may have seen a video or two when we were animal sitting for them while they were away on vacation. They like to go down south once or twice a year to visit family, and when they do, they're gone for about a week at a time. And if you're not familiar with the farm life or the agricultural life, it's kind of hard to find horse sitters, chicken sitters, guinea sitters, dog sitters, and all of that all in one. So as their neighbor, and the fact that we already know them because, well, they sold us this house to begin with in the first place, and they happen to live right next door. So it makes it really convenient for them to have us over to watch their animals while they're gone, because we already know their animals. And my husband and I have worked with horses in the past, and we really love working with horses. We enjoy being around them. So for us, it's kind of a fun task too to go over there and help them with their animals. Now over the past 4 or 5 years, we've built up a relationship with those neighbors and a few of the other neighbors that live within a couple of miles of us out here in the country. And in doing so, we've also been invited to what's called Hay Day out here in the country. Now for those of you that live in town, you probably buy your hay from somebody you found online, which is what we had always done until we moved out here and met some of our wonderful neighbors. Now we're invited into what's called Hay Day, and that's where everybody gets together to gather and disperse and stack hay in everybody's barns. So what we do, and I'll show you some old footage here, is that we go over to our neighbor's house and help them unload and stack hay in their barn. And in return, they give us some free bales of straw and hay, which is more than enough for our needs for our little bunnies and chickens around here. Now we've also made connections with some of our other neighbors, and not by our own needs, but by their needs. Like for instance, the story behind Phoenix. Is that Phoenix? There she goes. The story behind Phoenix is that she came from a neighbor's farm when their home burnt to the ground. They also lost their chicken coop, and many of their animals ran across the countryside. So those of us neighbors who were around gathered together to help out. And we found their pet pig down in the ditch. She was burnt up pretty bad, but we had an empty pig pen at the time because we didn't have our feeder pigs yet that you just saw a minute ago. So we offered them a place for her to stay and recover here on our homestead. Now, unfortunately, the pig did pass away due to internal damage from the fire. However, it did help us to meet new neighbors and make new friends and connections. Now, we don't always have neighbors or friends or connections in person to get everything we need here on our homestead. So sometimes we do go on the internet. And that's where my husband found our new breeder rabbit. And that would be Shiloh, or Shy Shy. because he's the most shy bunny we've ever had here on our homestead. Now, my husband found Shiloh on a Facebook group. He had originally been looking on Facebook Marketplace for bunnies that were for sale, but he couldn't find the right breed. So then he joined a group of local bunny breeders, and one of them was raising New Zealand rabbits, which are the same kind of rabbits that we already have for our girls, Beebs and Midnight. So this rabbit is supposed to also be a New Zealand rabbit. It is not registered and it does not have papers like the girls, but we just took the seller's word for it. And by the looks of these ears and its big long legs in the back, if he would show you, he does look to be New Zealand breed, and I believe he is mostly red, what they call red, which is kind of a brownish color. Now, Shiloh won't be breeding until February of next year in 25. So he's got a little time to grow up and catch up to the size of these big old girls in here. Now, over here in the other stall, we do have a couple of pregnant girls, and that's Brains and Pinky. So here's Brains, and she is about 2.5 weeks pregnant, so she has about 1.5 weeks more to go. And you can see I've already put the nesting box in there, and she's already started stuffing nesting material inside. So by the time her babies come, she'll be ready to go. And then right next to Brains, we have Pinky, who is also the same amount pregnant, 2.5 weeks. So she has about 1.5 weeks to go. They were bred one day apart from each other. One was on Saturday, one was on a Sunday. And Chunky Bunny is the father to all of them. Aren't you, Chunky Bunny? So with our rabbitry, we breed rabbits for meat here on our homestead, and we usually breed 4 females all on the same weekend, and that way we get an entire group of meat rabbits all at once. We run them around in grow out cages, which we have learned how to build by watching YouTube videos. So again, the internet is a great help, even if you have a community which is helpful and supportive. The internet can be a nice supplement to that. So even though we do have a wonderful community here, which we depend on quite a bit, and we help out and contribute to quite a bit, it's good boy. We also do still depend on internet connections quite a bit. Now, speaking of internet connections, I feel like there's a couple of other YouTube channels that I should mention on ours here. So there is one channel who's been following us pretty much through our entire journey since I've started posting videos here on our channel. And that would be Wild Bill over at Vintage Car History. And that's another YouTube channel. If you're interested in old cars, old trucks, just old vehicles in general, say like this old Chevy that we've got sitting here, I believe it's a 72. It's my husband's, so don't quote me on that. But if you're into old trucks, old cars, you should go check out VHC, Vintage Car History. And Wild Bill will tell you everything and anything you ever wanted to know about some old cars, and then some. Now, of course, that's not the only channel that I'm interested on YouTube. There is one other channel that I've been watching quite a bit, and the name of that channel is KC Farms. Now, KC Farms has a bunch of cooney pigs and other animals. Of course, you can't just have one animal on a farm. But these pigs that we have here are Berkshire pigs, or Berkshire pigs, depending on where you're from, how you say it. These are some of the best tasting pork producing pigs known in the world. Now, of course, that's arguable, and if you disagree, feel free to leave a comment and I'll read it and respond. But in our opinion, and in many people's opinion, these are the best tasting pork producers in the world, which is why we've been raising them for meat. Now, my husband found the connection to this pig farm where we buy our small pigs and raise them up, and he got that connection from a guy at work. So sometimes it goes outside of the community, back to the city, to the place where he works in the city. Of course, now that being said, like I mentioned, KC Farms has a really nice breed of pigs for homesteading. Now these pigs here, we raise them up to about 300 pounds before we butcher. And if we let them grow full size, like just for years and years, they would grow to 600 or 700 pounds. Now I'm only about 150, so 600 or 700 pounds for me is a lot of an unruly kind of animal to deal with. So the coonies off of Casey Farms only get up to like this size, like 300, maybe 400 pounds, which I'm used to handling. But I'm not used to handling twice that. So we're not really thinking about breeding these Berks, even though they've been great to raise for meat. So we are considering one day maybe breeding coonies just like they do over at Casey Farms. So make sure you check out that homestead channel too. I'll be sure to leave a link below to all of these channels I'm mentioning here today. Now we've also been quite prone over the last few years to take in animals that needed new homes, like this rooster here named Mr. Frankie. He belonged to a friend of my husband's, and they were having a little bit of trouble with him and their children because roosters are very protective of their hens, and he just wasn't really understanding getting along with human children. So we let him move here since we don't have any kids. Well, we do, but they're all grown up and moved out. He's been welcome here, and he's given me a little bit of a challenge and face off once in a while, and he still does once in a while. But Mr. Frankie and I have worked things out wonderfully over the past few years that he's been here, and we've always been welcome to taking on any other animals that we possibly could. And of course that includes Phoenix, the hen from the house fire that I showed you over there earlier, and also this random rooster hanging out in here with all these turkeys. His name is Moo, and he was also a rehomed animal that we took on here on our homestead. Now Moo came with a hen named Opal, and she's up front right now. Moo was having some issues pulling on the combs of the hens when he was mating, so we had to separate him from the hens, and that's why he's living in here with the turkeys now. But Moo did come with a mate, or a hen named Opal, and she's up front in the retirement coop. So let's go see her too. Hey, Tommy boy. Okay, so up here we've got Opal, who I just mentioned a minute ago, and she has a friend with her. This is not Opal. This is Opal. She's the hen that came to our homestead with Moo, the rooster. And Opal is a pretty old girl, and she's kind of having trouble getting around. My husband's been having to help feed her and give her drinks of water with a syringe. So we're not sure how long Opal has left here, but we've just been trying to keep her safe and comfortable as can be for now. So that's Opal. And those two came from a friend of my husband's, also from work. They were moving to a place that did not allow chickens. So that's why we got them. Now this one over here that's fussing for attention is Little Angel, and she gets jealous if you don't give her all the attention. Little Angel actually came from our neighbors who have the horses that we horse sit from, the same neighbors that we get the hay from. Now Little Angel was in with their flock of chickens, but they were being pretty mean to her and picking on her. And that's why she has kind of a bald head, and she's missing a little off her shoulders and a little off her back. Now when we first got her though, she had no tail at all. So you can see she is getting better. She is healing up. She is a lot less raw on her shoulders. And she is growing a little bit of feathers on her head up above her eye there, like an eyebrow. So she is healing up and starting to get better. And she's very good friends with Opal. Opal, like I said, doesn't get around very much anymore. She pretty much just stands wherever we put her. So we put her by food and water, and she just kind of stands there. Little Angel will come and go because they have an entire run here where they can go down and play. And they have a big giant coop for just 2 chickens. So even though she could go wherever she wants, she generally stays very close to Opal. And at night, when they roost up, they will both sit up in there on the top perch all the way by the corner, side by side. And until I get Opal out in the morning and put her outside, little Angel won't come out. She won't leave her side. So these two are really good best friends. And as long as Opal can hang in there, we'll leave them in here together. Now, if and when Opal passes from old age, we don't want little Angel to be alone. So she's going to end up moving into the side yard flock with her old friends Blondie and Phoenix. Because at one point, Blondie, Phoenix, Opal, and little Angel were all four in the same coop and run area together. So she's actually old friends with a couple of the gals in that side yard flock already. So I think that just about wraps up all the animals that we've taken in from random places, other than buying them or hatching them or whatever ourselves. Well, now, of course, Gabby Kitty came from an animal shelter where she would have been put down if we hadn't rescued her. So I guess she was kind of a rescue animal too. She's hiding out this time of day. She doesn't like the sun. Now, there is one more thing that I really wanted to mention to you guys. Living out here like we do in the country, we do have a furnace, but sometimes the power goes out because these power lines are kind of out in the middle of nowhere and really exposed to ice and things like that here in central Illinois. So we like to keep a lot of firewood on hand. Now, this goes back to the internet searching again. We searched the internet on Facebook Marketplace and found this whole load of firewood for free. All we had to do was come pick it up in the truck and bring it home. So do make sure that you're checking out places online. YouTube is a good place for information. I find that Facebook or any of those other types of websites are a good place for materials and equipment that you might need. We also bought this log splitter over here just to kind of make some of this firewood cut and go a little bit smoother and quicker. That way I can help out easier because I have a bad back and I can't chop wood with a hand axe. Now, if you haven't seen the video for that, I did post one on the log splitter, so go back and check that out. I'll put a link to it below too, if I remember while I'm editing. Now, we did already get maybe half, not quite half of this wood chopped up and over here in the firewood pile. So let me take you over there and show you that. I don't remember how much of this I may or may not have shown you guys already. But we do have this whole entire bay filled with chopped logs, so they're ready to throw into the fireplace. We cut them all, well, we cut most of them, about 1.5 feet long. I think it was 16 inches, so that it'll fit in our firewood rack in the living room, but they'll also fit in the oven where we're going to be burning them. So we've got this bay that's full, and we've got this bay that we've started filling. Again, all with split wood from the wood splitter. So then we've still got the other half of this bay and this one on the end that we need to fill with firewood. That's just some scrap material there in the corner on the end. We're going to be moving that probably down there with the rest of that scrap material. Now, last year, this is another really good resource I should mention. Last year, all we could find right before winter was this scrap wood from a pallet factory. So when they make pallets, they cut them to a certain size so that they, you know, are like rectangular or whatever. And these are the little scrap cut ends that are left over from the process of making those pallets. Now, these are all different types of materials. Some of them are little chunks of 2x4. Some of them are these little skinny slats. You know, there's kind of a hodgepodge of materials. All of this is untreated wood. You want to make sure that when you get scrap cuttings from somewhere that it's untreated. That way you're not putting chemicals into your house from all the smoke from treated wood. So this is all untreated wood from a pallet factory, and it was just free scraps that were left over. So even though they burn fast and hot, and you got to keep stacking them in a million, you know, at a time every hour, they do keep your house warm. It will save you in a pinch. So we did keep what we had left for in case of emergency. Now, of course, we're going to be using these actual split logs that we've been working on with the splitter. And if we run out of those, then we'll start to utilize some of these little scrap pieces left over from last year. And we're hoping that the rest of that wood pile over there is going to be just enough to finish filling the last 2 bays in this wood bin. Well, I think that just about brings us full circle back to where we started here with the baby turkeys. So if you guys have any other questions or information that you're curious about from our homestead and how we do things here and where we get our information, our materials, our equipment, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And if we get enough, we may do a follow-up video for this. Y'all have a good one. Bye.